going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 64 of podcast. I'm going to be joined today by Thomas Werdine of ThinkFreight. Just before we get into today's episode, we got to get through the EF routing top. And I realized I did it. I took a week off from running the podcast, forgot how to do my voiceovers on the EF routing top hauls of the week. Coming in at number one, we're going to have a drive-in lane from Columbus, Ohio to Kinston, North Carolina. About 550 on the miles, averaging 2.9 to almost 3.4 on the high end. We're going to go Maryland to Mass, drive-in again, about 500 miles, going to 3.34 and almost 4.5 a mile. So, Northeast. That's a solid lane. You're going out to Mass, so, be prepared to get out of there, but still solid money. Going in number one on the reefer side is Findlay, Ohio to Philadelphia, about 530 on the miles, 3.4 to 4.9. Then we got a Madison, Wisconsin over to Hodgenville, Kentucky, about 508 on the miles, 3.25 to 4.6. Pretty big variance on the reefer side for this week, so just pay attention to what you're booking. Getting into the flatbed side of things, got a Demopolis, Alabama to Lexington, Kentucky, about 480 on the miles, going for 2.5 to 2.8 on the high end. We got a West Virginia over to PA, 330 on the miles, 3.6 to almost $5 on that lane. Coming out of West Virginia, that's pretty solid. Moving over to the best loops for a drive-in, you're going to start out in St. Helens, Oregon. Move over to Washington, then down to San Diego, Bakersfield, over to Arizona, back to Oregon. Pretty solid amount of money on a straight west lane. 6-7 days on a route, making it to 8.3 to 9.2. I don't run a lot of West freight, but I guess the market out there is looking pretty solid. So, going into best loop for reefer, I'm going to start out in Warren, Arkansas, going over to Philly, down to Springfield, Mass, then to Allentown, over to Lafayette, and back to Arkansas. Some pretty big money on a normal work week, man. 10.1 to almost 10.5 on the gross, 3.2 to 3.4 almost on the RPM. Nothing to complain about there on the reefer side. And getting into flatbed, I'm going to start out in Lewiston, Maine, heading over to New York, then to Pittsburgh, Lafayette, Milwaukee, back to Maine. 5-6 days, a little bit shorter of a week, making almost 10 grand, 3.5 to 3.8 almost on the rate per mile. So overall, the market's been good. I'm hearing that it's kind of cooling off this week, but we'll see how it goes over the next 1-2 weeks. But anyways, let's hop into today's show with Thomas Werdine. What is going on, man?
What's up, dude? Glad to join you today.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you because my intro music was silent and my other intro was silent, and then I muted myself. So I'm happy that the sound is working at least.
Dude, I'm glad. I was sitting over here just jamming out to your intro and vibing while I was going. I was just sitting here dancing to myself, having a good time, getting ready for the pod, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, well, when I made the intro, I used non-copyright music, but I've just been getting copyright striked on YouTube all day long. So that intro music will be changed. It will be updated pretty soon. But let's hop into the intro, man.
Dude, I had the exact same problem. Before we jump in, I had the exact same problem when I first started too. I downloaded some copyright strike-free music from YouTube. It was like, oh yeah, no issues. It was like brand new music too. It wasn't like out for years. It was like 3 or 4 months old
for like 5 days.
Yeah, bro. Every day, every time, copyright strike. I was like, what the heck, man? This is stupid.
I use like a website, and I've been like 10 for 10 on the past 10 times I've used it. But for whatever reason, the video I put a lot of effort into is like, that's the one where I wanted to go 0 for 1.
Yep. That's how it always works, dude.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But let's get into it, man. How did you end up in logistics?
Oh, man. So I was probably 24-ish, 25-ish. I was selling cars, and I was tired of selling cars, honestly.
Tired of selling cars, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I didn't hate it. Like, I did it for almost 4 years, and it was pretty decent, but like I just got tired of it. I was in a small town community. We had like 35,000 people. We got a lot of Chicago people that used to come in. We were right on the water, so like we were a pretty like Chicago adjacent city that people like to come to. And so we'd get a lot of outside traffic like that, but it just wasn't like the vibe or like what I was really looking for.
I mean, what
So
cars were you selling? What type of dealership was it?
So I sold Chevy, Buick, and GMC. For the first 2 years, I sold everything, and then the last 2 years, I also became a Corvette specialist. So they sent me to Vegas, did Corvette training, was selling the new Stingray at the time in 2014. So I was like
Oh,
20 something. I was like 20 something years old, like driving these fast ass cars and like being sent by a dealership to Vegas to like go test drive stuff. Yeah, it was
what
cool as
does
hell.
Corvette training look like? Is that like to drive it, or is that like to sell the Corvette? You had to go through training.
So both, at least at our
I,
store.
I figured.
Yeah, so like so the store I was at was one of the highest volume Corvette dealerships in the country. So we had to like go through like certifications and training. We had a lot of different like allotment and things like that, which just means cars coming to the dealership than other stores did. So GM kind of put a different um like tactic for their dealers that were very high volume and had to go through different trainings and things like that for Corvettes. So my dealership sent me because I was one of the highest performers in the store, and we only had like 10 people, so it wasn't like super hard to stand out. You know what I mean? You just had to get in the top two, and I mean sell like 15 cars a month, and you weren't doing too bad. But they sent me out there. The training looked like this, right? It was 4 days in Las Vegas, driving the car and test driving it against competitors. So like they had the Porsche, they had Dodge Viper, they had bunch of different cars there that we were test driving against. And then we were in a bunch of meetings and presentations with higher ups from GM, engineers who built the car, inspirations about the car. They had some of the like inspiration cars there. They had a Lamborghini there that like inspired the car, and just a lot of those kind of things to like to
Yeah,
sell to.
Lamborghini inspired a Corvette. Yeah, that's a good one. I
Yeah,
like that.
it's wild, man. But like it's kind of selling that story to the buyer, right? So
No,
it
that's what
was
I was
just kind
about
of
to say. Honestly, the training is like much more intense than I thought it would, right? You are selling the story. That is like one of the
exactly.
higher, I guess, probably the highest ticket car that they sell. So that is
Yeah.
cool that the training taught you how to sell a story and not just the product.
Yeah, exactly. And it was very much just like, because the people who are generally buying these, they're buying them for their one sports car. The demographic was probably a 40, 45 to 50-year-old guy. It was his one and only sports car, blue collar guy, who's, probably works at this in my area, worked at the steel mill, came from that background, worked 100 hours a week, 200 hours a week, whatever it was. And they were just after that like fun Saturday driver that they drove 3 or 4 times a year and put 700 miles on it, and they put it away. That's the kind of that's the kind of person that we dealt with on a day to day, and selling those kind of cars. There was the obvious entrepreneurs who just love Corvettes and they didn't want to spend the money on something more expensive and spend two, three, $400,000, but 80 to 110 is more reasonable for
I
some
mean,
for some
you
people.
definitely learned a lot about sales in the car business. I mean,
Oh yeah.
since I follow John Rogers, he's always been the one harping like car sales is like
Yep.
deadly to freight sales. But I mean, let's just before we progress on to the next step of your journey, how did you even end up in car sales?
I just needed a job, so I genuinely
Yeah,
was just like job hunting, and
yeah, like
they
whatever, yeah, like whatever is gonna hire me, basically.
exactly. And I didn't really know, like, I was kind of looking for something way different than what I found, but like, yeah. So I found car sales. They really liked me. I liked them. It was close to my house, which was like another bonus.
Yeah, super
Um,
convenient.
yeah, super convenient. I was like a 2.5 mile drive, so I was like a 5-minute commute. So I could get out of bed last minute and still be there on time. It was great for like a starting off 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. So yeah, I mean, honestly, it was just like kind of fell into it. I was just looking for a job and started
Yeah,
making
no, of
money.
course. Similar to every logistics story. So, okay, you get into car sales, you learn a bunch about sales, drive a bunch of Corvettes, make some memories, figure out, I don't want to be a car salesman the rest of my life. I mean, where do you go from there?
Yeah, so I hit the job board, was just kind of looking around. I wanted to move to Chicago. That was kind of what my goal was. I was in like I said, small town outside of Chicago. I'm in Indiana. And so I was a 50-minute drive from Chicago, and I was looking at all these positions. I was, taking the train back and forth, doing in-person interviews and stuff like that. And company called a little small boutique brokerage, if you will, called Total Quality Logistics. You may have heard of them, Alex. They're pretty small.
Yeah, it's definitely on the smaller side, boutique
Smaller,
side,
smaller boutique
service
brokerage.
driven.
Service driven, very price oriented. They pay their carriers very well, no problems. No, but seriously, I fell into this job at TQL, and just like I don't really know why I took the job. I'll be frank. I
Because
had
it let you
another
move to Chicago, bro. That's why. Like,
dude. I mean, that's genuinely it. So I had another opportunity with Schneider, to go to their asset side and sell asset, and it didn't get me to Chicago. I was going to be in Gary, Indiana, which is not where I
no,
wanted
like
to
I
be.
understand your mentality, man. Because so like I was lucky growing up, man. I was the city kid. Like I grew up like always in a big city, and like then I
Yep.
moved in my last year of high school to like a very small city. And like I remember like the look on everyone's faces when they were like, "Man, I just want to go to the city, man. I just want to go to Toronto, bro." Like, and like, so, like I know exactly what you went through. You're like, I don't care, man. I'm going to Chicago. Like that was
Dude,
ingrained in you. Like that's what you were gonna do.
exactly.
Like,
Dude, exactly. Like I was like from the small town. Like I was always in Chicago. Like the train ran from my city to Chicago. I could get there for $7.25. It was the best, right? So I was there
yeah,
every weekend. Any chance I could be in Chicago, I was in Chicago. And I was like this
yeah, of
job,
course.
this broker, this I don't even know what the hell it was. This logistics company wanted me and wanted to pay me $35,000 a year to come sit in an office, an air conditioned office in downtown Chicago. Sign me up, bro. Like I was in.
Yeah. You could. It didn't even matter what you're making. You still got to say, "Yo, I work in like
I
corporate Chicago." You know?
Exactly. I work in downtown Chicago. Like, let's go get beers.
Yeah. The cloud was there. The cloud was there. So okay, what
Yeah.
year is that you get into that situation?
Good question. 2017.
Nice, man. Okay, so you've been at it. So you get in there. What's your starting role in logistics? I mean, you book and
So,
freight, you carry your.
yeah. So TQL's cradle to grave. So I started off kind of as an LAET, which is the logistics account executive in training. And so my first day is, yeah, they got to add the T, training, LAET. You got to make sure that you're just a ring below everyone else. But no, so so I get there. I had no idea like what the training process was going to be like. It wasn't really like explained that I was going to be coming in and with a group of like 17 people. And so my first day went like this, right? We had 17 people join. By
What did you wear
lunchtime,
on your first day? Like, did you show up in a suit and tie to like the TQL
no,
office
no,
day
no,
one?
no, God, no. I had a polo and probably some like
Like some
chinos
pants?
on or something. Yeah, some like blue
I see
chinos or
like a
something,
lot of
some dress
those when
pants.
the interns come in and stuff, and they're wearing like suit and ties, and they're working at like big brokerages, and I'm like, yeah, this is like not really what this industry
Bro,
is, man.
tomorrow you're gonna
I
be
mean, like, I
wearing
respect
jeans.
the
Like,
effort. I respect the grind. Like,
no, that was not me. So no, I polo, khakis and some dress shoes or something like that. And the next day I was in like jeans and a polo. Like they were like, okay, dress it down. You guys are fine.
yeah, like chill out, bro. You're a
Yeah,
freight broker.
chill out. Exactly.
Yeah, it's
We're
not the
not we're not
S&P.
the exact. It's not the S&P 500. We're sitting here. We're doing freight here, guys.
All right, so you get in there, you're in a group of like 20 people. They're like, you're in training. I mean, what's going on? You're shadowing like an actual account manager. I mean,
So my
what's the training?
first, so I haven't even like met any one of them would be shadowing or anything like that. Yeah, like my first 4 hours are just like in front of a computer learning about TQL, and like the first hour is kind of like you meet people, blah blah blah, who my GSM and all the kind of like managers that are going to be working with us and what the hell we're going to be doing. Kind of give us the outline for the week, and then we dive into like I said, the training modules, what we're going to be doing, what is freight, what is LTL, what is full truck, but what are all these modes?
Yeah,
What
what
are
was
what
the
is
answer? Like what is freight? Like, did they say just
Oh,
stuff?
I don't even remember, dude. It was something kind of corny like that. It was like everything. Like, if it was like look around you and all the stuff that you see is
That's
freight. Like,
freight, bro.
yeah. So
All
like
right, so
they
you
were
go through
teaching us,
kind of like corporate training. Like,
dude. So this is what's interesting. By lunchtime, we start with 17. By lunchtime, we're at like 15. Like we've lost two people by
you've
lunchtime.
already lost two people in the
We've
first like
lost
half of
two
the
people in the first 4 hours. Like they're just like, nope, this is not for me. This is not what I was sold. I was sold a fraud of goods. I'm not staying here. So, but we're at 15 people. after lunch, they kind of cut us out. They're like, hey, go meet your freight broker. They kind of like assign us a person, and then they like kind of kick us out the door and like, hey, go meet your freight broker. And like we go out to the floor, and it's kind of just like a free for all. Like, hey, go meet the like person, and they're just kind of like at their desk, still kind of like working, and you're just kind of like,
like
walking to everyone.
Working, like, don't care about
their headsets are on. They're talking to customers, and then you're just kind of like walking around, looking at everyone's desk. Like, is this my guy? No, this isn't him. Sorry, I'm just looking for my new trainee. But so it was a kind of weird process. Find my trainee, my training guy. Really cool broker. Chris, if you're watching this, what's going on, dude? He really great broker.
I just remember the guy, like by name, everything. Like,
him and I are actually still good friends. Like, so,
nice.
yeah, so really good dude. Worked on his account.
Are formed, you know, in the trenches and with mutual hatred over, like, you know, the corporation.
Dude, and the mutual bond you make over just like issues in logistics, where you're just like having to like solve these stupid issues together, and it's just like you just bring a team together that way.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, how many months like were you in that kind of training until you started? I mean, I assume you started getting your own customers, building a book. That was the next step.
Yeah, so the training process is 6 months or 5.5 months, and it kind of really walks through the whole process of, you know, helping the broker in operations, like booking loads, building loads, all that process. And then, yeah, like about 2.5 months in, you really start to dive into like the prospecting aspect and targeting prospects and going after people. Like the really like what they tell you to do is go after people who have moved loads of TQL in the past, find out why they stopped moving loads of TQL, and try to repair their relationship or whatever. And that's pretty much what I did. I found a shipper that had moved with us, and, you know, like a year, they had a broker who they really liked. The lady left, and the lady was heartbroken and didn't want to use TQL. She was just upset. So I just became best friends with her. Literally just became friends with her. Like no one else just like, she literally told me this after like 6 months. She's like, no one really just like talked with me and just like learned about what I was doing or like anything.
Like they just called business oriented, calling on business, talking business, not like, hey, how are you doing? Like no human element.
Exactly. And I would call her and just ask about her grandkids and about like her life and stuff like that. And then I would hang up the phone without even asking about freight. Like I was like, oh shit, I completely forgot to talk about. I forgot
to do my job.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what am I like? What? But it made the relationship, right? Like even,
of course,
you know, well, like even to today, like her and I are still connected on LinkedIn. She likes my posts. Like she follows the
I mean, yeah, like I'll put it to you this way. Like I had a broker that I used to work with when I was a carrier, and it was the same thing. Like we would call each other, forget to actually talk about the freight. And he ended up coming out to Italy like a year ago. And he's like, hey, you want to meet me in Italy? I was like, oh, like I'm working. But I mean, that's the type of relationships that are like, you know, going to last. And it's not transactional. Like when somebody's inviting you to like chill with them in a different country, and like you ask them about their grandkids, and you like cookie recipes, like that's how this industry is supposed to go. But I mean, we all know how it's been going.
Yeah, so, it's interesting. It's interesting, right? Like I feel like when I got into it, it was still a lot more relationship driven and not as transactional as kind of what it has become, in my opinion.
I mean, I guess 2020, 2021 market, like that was when things started to just kind of like historic levels of things happening.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of things started to change very quickly. And then tech over the past 1, 2, 3 years, I'd say more so over the past like 14 months, tech has just like evolved rapidly in our industry, and especially when it comes to like vetting and all this kind of, like, I mean, there's just like a lot of things that have happened in 3 years, man, where it's not like people picking up a phone and having a car. Now it's like, and people are trying to make those like robots to call people, and it's like, I don't know, like things are getting like very far very quickly. And
well, dude, let me ask you this. I know it's your podcast, but like, what is your like take on those AI like?
I like AI. That's honestly, I love when people ask me questions, because nobody ever asks me any questions. It's awesome, bro. It's the best. I mean, honestly, my take, like I was presented a different take on it like pretty recently, and now I'm like terrified, because I was like, I don't know, like I didn't really care. I didn't really think about it. Like it wasn't something that was like even really like a thought in my head for much of this time. And recently somebody told me like, so, you know, like when you answer the phone and you can start to tell some red flags, maybe like an accent or like some geographical, like, you know, you start to like hear some things and you start to like think, and, you know, like these kind of things. Now imagine that like the scammers are gonna get good at using this stuff. They're probably gonna do it better than like
Way
normal
better.
people.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking like, crap, man. Like I think it's gonna be a net negative, but that I don't know. Like we'll have to see. I'm not gonna like say anything is set in stone, but that's something we're gonna have to pay attention to, because if the bad guys get a hold of this tech, then like, bro, there's like a meme, and it's like a river that's flowing, right, and then it gets blocked by like a dam, and it's like making millions of dollars, like bad accent, you know, like stops it. And it's like, yeah, man, I don't know if the tech is going to be a positive or a negative going in that regard, but I guess we'll find out. I mean, what do you think about it? I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Like,
I feel the same way. So I talked about this in the newsletter like maybe a year ago when they really started to pop up, when Happy Robot came out, and I thought that was really interesting. And then I dove into it some more, and I was
mean,
like,
it is really interesting. It is.
No, and it still is to this day. Like it's very interesting, right? But like I started to dive into it more, and I'm like, okay, like if we're seeing the type of sophistication we're seeing with double brokering and fraud right now today, I cannot imagine how that is going to be when you can train when these bad actors just say, hey, we're going to spend $100,000 of our ill-gotten goods from double brokering and use this to develop an app or an AI that can do exactly what a Happy Robot is doing, or any of these tools are doing, and it's going to go negotiate, or we're going to double broker this way. There's no accents, there's no red flags. It's going to be trained on, whatever data we can find. There's freight broker data, or they'll find out ways, right? The first iterations are probably going to be absolutely garbage, where you'll be able to tell right away. But over time, the next year and a half, you won't be able to even tell you're negotiating with a
man. There was a guy, and yeah, that's the thing. So now in this stage, I mean, I've got called by robots even on this podcast live. Like they're believable, but it's not yet. But imagine 1, 2 years, 6 months, 8 months, like it's obviously going to get to the point where it's flawless. So we already got to take that conversation off the table. Like it is going to improve. It is going to be flawless in some point in the near future. Then some other guy I interviewed during the filming of the Serbia trip, I can't remember who it was. He pointed out another thing that I just remembered. He's like, listen, man, I'm running a business, right? You're running a business. Like we're all running like a business. And like we don't have all the time in the world because we have a business to run. He's like, now imagine double brokers and like bad actors. Like they don't have a business. Like their only business is to find ways to screw up your business, and they have all the time in the world to do that. And that's another point of view where I'm like, crap, man, this guy was right about that too.
Yeah, I'm honestly super interested to kind of just see how things evolve over the next 12 months. I'll be honest, I'm glad I'm not on the asset side, and I'm glad I'm not a broker at this point, because it's
no, I mean,
2025
is going to be one of the most interesting years in freight. I mean, this month has been a little slow. We've had a lot of weather issues and holidays. I mean, January has been off to a pretty slow, chill start. But I don't know, man. By spring, when it starts, things start to heat up, man. Like the weather starts getting nicer. I think we're gonna see some really interesting market things, and just overall, like I think the freight industry this year is gonna be really cool to keep track of.
Dude, I think so. I think it's going to be a very interesting year overall, just in every facet. Whether you're a maritime nerd, an OTR nerd, an LTL nerd, a reefer nerd, dude, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, but okay, let's get back on track here with your logistics career. So you get into that 3-letter brokerage, you go through the training, you start building your book by being a human and asking shippers, how was their day. Start building your book. I mean, how long do you stay in the cradle to grave kind of broker role?
Yeah, so I was at TQL just about 2 full years. So the only reason I honestly left, and I'll just be frank, I was moving from Chicago to Houston, and I did not like the TQL Houston office. And I was just like, I might as well start waiting out my non-compete now, because I want to get back into freight. And yeah, I just started waiting out my non-compete. And
what brings you to Houston from Chicago, since Chicago was the promised land for you growing up, man?
Yeah, so just honestly wanting to. So I've never warmer weather, dude. Yeah, I've always never been a fan of the cold. As much as, I mean, I still love Chicago. It's my favorite city ever.
I still love Canada. I'm Canadian, but dude, I don't miss minus 30 snow all the time.
if I could move Chicago to where Houston is, I would live here forever. Like, let's do it. Like, pick it up and move it to a warm climate, But aside from that, I moved to Houston because it's just warmer climate, and aside from this week, where we had snow, but aside from that, I just wanted to escape the cold, and And yeah, so moved to Houston and wanted to start, getting back into logistics as quickly as possible. So I kind of quit like 4 or 5 months before I knew like we were going to move, right? Like I'm with my current girlfriend, we moved down here together, and so we knew we were going to move. And like around December time, I quit and just started a little bit early on my non-compete, so that way I wouldn't have to wait as long once I got here.
What were you doing while you waited it out? I mean, we know probably, I don't know many people that have had to wait them out and what they did, to be honest.
So I spent about 7 months doing radio sales, which was really interesting. I hated every second of it. It was probably the worst sales experience I've just ever had.
What does that even
Um,
mean? Like, I picture you like selling stuff on the radio, dude.
like essentially, yeah, like so I worked for a radio station, and I would go basically like to just anyone in my local area that was a business that may have wanted to advertise on a radio station.
Oh,
It was
okay,
terrible.
okay, okay. No, no, I pictured you like sitting in a room like what we're doing right now. I'd be like,
And just like
"Welcome to
reading ads.
98.7 Houston FM. What would you like to buy today?" Like just selling like stuff on
That
the
wa-
radio. No,
Dude, I would
you
have
were
liked,
selling
like
stuff
that way
for the
more.
radio.
Yeah, yeah. I would have liked selling stuff on the radio way more. That would have been so much more fun.
Yeah, that would have been cool. But okay,
Yeah, yeah.
anyways, I don't even want to get into that. Like you wait out
Yeah,
your
that's fun.
non-compete, tell me what happens there. Like how close we're pretty close to current day at this point, right?
Yeah, we're getting closer. So TQL, I ended TQL just before 2020. So I got back into logistics like March of 2020, right as the pandemic started to ramp up at a small startup brokerage. Someone I knew was starting a broker. Said, "Hey, do you want to come be employee number one and grow here?" And I said, "Hell yeah, let's go." So we started that right during the pandemic in March of 2020, and I was there for just about 2 years as well. That
Nice.
that
Okay.
actually was a small boutique brokerage.
Yeah, that actually was white glove
Yeah,
service and stuff like
yeah.
that. But I mean, take me through your current life, man. Now, I mean, obviously, you just said like you're not into brokerage anymore. Obviously, probably not any operations. I mean, take me through the scope of what you're doing these days and kind of your day to day life now.
Yeah, so I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my time right after that brokerage. So I was, like I said, at that brokerage for about 2 years, and then I went to Freight Waves in 20 end of 2021 or in early 2022, early 2022 ish, and started to sell sonar. So I went to the sonar side, was doing that, and just I kind of heard from a lot of the people I was talking to, small carriers, small brokerages, medium sized carriers and brokerages. Where can I find an easier way to like find content? Like whether that's from freight waves, from like all these news sources, they're like, our drivers can't like do all this thing. Our new brokers, like it's shit's crazy. We don't have time to just be reading headlines. So like, where can we go? And like people love freight waves, but the also problem they had was is like a lot of
It's like a little bit
broke
too much sometimes. Yeah,
it's
like
too
it's
it's too
full
high
news
level
story.
for yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And they don't need that. So they were just like, "Hey, do you know anything?" And I heard this 1,000 plus times. It was just like, maybe I'll create something. I just kind of got something stirring in my head. And yeah, so I left Freight Waves in early 2023 and just decided I wanted to do something on my own, be more creative. I just hadn't been as creative over the last several years, and had done some basketball content during the pandemic that I enjoyed. And then just decided, I just didn't have time to like take on a new hobby. Like I love basketball, but it was more watching basketball, not creating content around it. So I was like, how
yeah.
can I
Okay,
like,
so yeah, I had exactly all of the same issues you did, where it was like, I just felt like I wanted to create something. Like I wanted to be like doing something that wasn't tedious labor, and like I wanted to
yeah,
create something. I just didn't know what to do because I had the same issues as you. I was like, I want to start making some content. Back in high school, I used to make video game YouTube videos and
yep,
montages, and then I was like, man, let me get into like making content for soccer or like something. I was like,
yep,
I don't have time for that either, though. So that's how I also got into like truck content because I was like, let me mix like the two things I
exactly.
like am passionate about. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And I
oh,
love the NBA. I love, okay, no, you're good. That's exactly the same, dude. Like I love the NBA and I love to like enjoy that content. But like when I started to like create content on the NBA, it was like, oh shit, now it's like I have to like follow all 30 teams or whatever team I want to like niche into and really know everything about it. And I'm a giant Chicago Bulls fan. I watch almost every game. I live or die by the Bulls. I hate how terrible they are. I wish they'd sell the whole team. But
Yeah, I'm at the same with Manchester United. Like, I wish they would sell everyone except for Garnacho. That's it, bro. Like,
yeah,
I think we lost like, I don't know, literally 8 out of the last 9 games. It's disgusting.
dude, it's just terrible. And I'm just like, sell the whole team, just get it over with. Let's restart and get it like something underway. But like to that point, like I didn't enjoy like creating that content. It was like I did
Yeah,
for like the first few times, but then it was just like the newness kind of wore off and it was like it just felt like another job. And then I was like, oh, like this idea of like freight content, like what would that look like? And I just kind of flushed it out. And first came the newsletter because that's kind of what I was more interested in and like where I find value in my personal life. I'm a big newsletter subscriber. I'm subscribed to way too many and spend way too much of my time reading newsletters. So I was like, why not create my own for kind of the freight industry? And yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at today. 3 or 4 months after the newsletter first launched as a weekly newsletter, I started the podcast, and then 2 months after I started the podcast, it became a bi-weekly newsletter. And now today we're 3 times a week and mostly creating newsletters right now.
yeah.
Still
So it's
podcasts,
interesting.
but it's been
It's
big
interesting
focus
you
on
say
that.
that
Yeah.
because I've never been a newsletter guy, and I always like I've had so many people come across and tell me like make a newsletter. I'm like that's the whole. We're going back to your dilemma with basketball content. Like it's
Yep.
not something I'm passionate about, and obviously as we progress, maybe I'll have some people work on that. But that's the thing. You have to like what you do, right? Like you enjoy, you
Yeah.
read, you're a consumer of newsletters, so it's a
Yep.
easy pivot for you to say, hey, like I know what I like and don't like about newsletters, and let me see how to like create my own. And that's the thing. You have to have the passion for what you're doing. And obviously, we
Exactly.
both enjoy the freight industry, and we've been through the ops side of it. And creating content around stuff you enjoy and are passionate about makes the most sense. Because I have people tell me like, look, like my friends in real life come by my house. They're like, you have like all this recording equipment and like good computer. Like, why don't you play games again? I was like, dude, because I suck at games now. Like, I only like to be good at stuff, and like, I don't want to make
Yeah.
content revolving around me sucking at games, dude. Like, so, I mean, you have to
Yeah.
have that passion. And for you, it was newsletters and getting into the podcasting. And I mean, take me through sort of some tips you would give people that might want to get into the media side or content creation side of trucking.
Yeah, I would say just do it. If you have an idea, if you have a dream, if you have a passion, genuinely, like I used to be the person who would sit there and wait for the perfect moment. Hey, no, I need this. I have to have a good microphone. I have to have a good computer. I have to do this. No, just start. Like there's way too many tools out there today where like this podcast right now. I'm sitting here. I'm recording on my phone. It's connected to my Mac. I don't have any like I'm not even using my fancy microphone. I'm literally using my AirPods because I didn't feel like connecting stuff. And I was on a meeting right before this, so it was like hey, whatever works, right? And it's like that's just it. You have to just start with what you have and understand that like, hey, my first few pieces of content, they're gonna suck.
Oh yeah.
But that's okay. Like you have to like you're not gonna get any better in your content by waiting. So like if your goal is to create freight content, whether that's broker side, trucking content, whatever it is, start today, start tomorrow. Like create a plan and just start doing it. And if you really want to do it and like make it something more like what you and I do, where it's like more of like a career slash a side hustle where like it's a full-time gig most of the time, but we're also doing
I
something
mean, yeah,
else.
I think it has to start. I mean, I don't, who am I to say that it has to be this way? That's obviously too much of an absolute. But I mean, my path and the path that was probably the same for you and for Paul and for a lot of us was it's a hobby. Then it turns into like a side hustle. And then from a side hustle, it turns into hopefully a career if you get to that point. And like you said, it doesn't start until you start. And
Yeah.
day one can be today or it can be tomorrow, but it can never be yesterday if you haven't started yet.
Yeah, that's spot on. I mean, but I'll be honest. So I was kind of asked backwards with what I did. I quit Freight Waves and started my journey with just the cash I had in my bank account, and I started
Yeah, so I
doing.
was gonna bring that up to you when you said that. Like, I quit Freightwaves and now I'm doing this. Like, it was in the back of my head. I'm like, yo, that was like rolling the dice big time.
Yeah, man, and I had some money saved up. My girlfriend has a good job, and I'm like, we weren't worried about like that aspect of it, and she was all in on what I wanted to do too, and so I just kind of went for it, and what I kind of found with myself, right, is I love working for myself and love creating content, and we can talk about this more in a minute. Um, but I missed really being a part of like a team. Yeah, I could have hired people. I still could hire people to do things. Um, I'll just be frank. I wanted to just be a solopreneur, and do things myself. Like I don't feel as though right now I'm a great leader in terms of like saying, hey, I can have a full team and be fully there and like be able to lead them in the ways that I feel like I need to. So I said, hey, like how can I still do what I'm doing today with newsletters and podcasts and creating content and value for the industry, but also be surrounded by a team and also doing something that brings me also joy, right? So like recently I was telling you off air, but like recently joined the S Works team just a couple weeks ago to help them on their US side selling kind of the nearshoring or talent as a service aspect. So yeah, it's been a great couple of years and just kind of learning more about myself and kind of who I am and what I want to kind of learn and achieve and grow from there.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that's a really mature statement to say, like maybe I don't feel like I'm ready to lead a team or to be
Yeah.
good at delegation or to get the best out of people around me. It's a really mature statement because I've said it
Yeah.
100 times on the podcast by now. Like I sucked at being in that position when I first did it.
Yeah.
And I got lucky, man. I got recently involved, a lot with Jaime, man. And we met up in Serbia over the past like last week. And I mean, he was giving me a lot of tips. And just when I thought I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this whole like, leading people thing. And this guy comes in and just like, you got some work to do. So he brought me back to reality, and just when you think you're good at something, somebody with much more experience will always be there to just keep your feet planted. And, it was a really good thing to have that. But let's get into outsourcing a little bit, man. I mean, what are you doing? What's your obviously your opinion is going to be positive on the topic if you're, pursuing doing stuff with it. I mean, what are you doing in the outsource space?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of like nearshoring, right? So like closer to home in Colombia instead of overseas and in Eastern Europe. But it's still a similar process, right? We're finding talent to help logistics companies, scale their operations at a more effective price point than the US.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole point. I also say everyone can
Yeah.
say it how they want to say it, but obviously the first and most important step is going to be it is a cost reduction. Now we're going to get into the topic of how do we keep the quality of work the same? How do we keep the standards held high? How do we manage the outsourced nearshore people? That's all different conversations that are very important. But step one is like, why do we outsource nearshore? Because it saves money. And if it was the same price, nobody would be doing it. That's the whole point of the topic.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I love outsourcing. Obviously, nearshoring outsourcing is something. I was born and raised in Canada, man. I ended up coming on vacation in Serbia. I ended up liking it, staying. I have family here. And I've been really lucky to have the chance to meet a lot of these people working in these offices and working with these companies. And last week we filmed with at least 10 companies. We have a few more to get to. And just having the experience to be boots on the ground and see these people and meet them and like meet their grandparents and have dinners with their families. And like, these are just real people, right? I feel like sometimes people just look like down on anyone that's not on American soil doing this logistics career. And I mean, it's just tough, right? Because these are like real humans. And that's the whole goal with the media side of things that we're trying to get into is to just show people that they're people, man.
That's it. And like, and what's interesting is, and something I have found super interesting for a long time is just like, I'm just, a white guy that was born here in the United States. I speak English. I don't speak Spanish. I don't speak any other languages. So it's like, for me, kind of that barrier to entry for some drivers, like to book carriers is tough, right? Like if I don't speak Spanish and this guy only speaks Spanish, well, if no one on my team speaks Spanish, I'm kind of screwed. So it's also like a relationship builder for some drivers when we help with dispatching and ops is it's a relationship builder for the carrier too. If we could have if I could have said, hey, let's hire someone from Colombia or from Mexico or from any Latin American country to help us both build relationships but also have that logistics experience where they already know what all these terms mean. We don't have to like start from scratch. It's a game changer because you can also make more money, not just from saving money from the service, but also from the aspect of you're building that relationship relationship with someone who speaks the language. They have cultural similarities, so that way, they're more apt to, book with you over someone else who doesn't speak Spanish or doesn't speak Russian or Ukraine, like whatever language it may be. So yeah, it's a big upside in my opinion.
No, I mean, I think a lot of people in our industry are really harsh on the more the immigrant communities that are driving in America that don't speak great English. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
man, I mean, there's immigration. It is what it is. Like, these people speak enough. It's not that they don't speak any English. It's just that it's limited, right? And they're learning, and you can't expect somebody to come to a country with almost nothing and start, try to start a new life and learn English immediately.
Hey,
Now,
listen,
I will say,
Hey, listen, I go on Facebook, and half the Americans I see posting don't speak very good English. So it's like, what are we doing here?
oh, especially on the typing side of things. But
Dude, yeah.
I mean, I think everyone's just really harsh on everyone in logistics, and
100%.
I think the market for the past like 30 months has just made like all the little cracks in our industry just like fully like plummet and explode, because these things were all here even when the market was amazing in 2021. I was dispatching.
Oh yeah.
People were all still the same amount of pissed off about all the same amount of things, but they just like didn't have time, or like, it wasn't at the forefront. And now we have a lot of free time because the freight is like few and far between. The rates are not too great. Nobody's out there making like crazy equipment purchases, and now we all have a lot of time to sit with our thoughts and be like, I hate this. This is the problem with the industry. So, I mean, that's how I see it, man.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on, dude.
Yeah. But I mean, any like closing thoughts on ThinkFreight? I mean, if you want to give us like, for anybody that might not know you, which I'm sure most do, but anybody that might watch this, what's like the elevator pitch on ThinkFreight?
Yeah, we're just a quick and easy way to find your freight news when we do it through, 5-minute newsletters, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, through like research and entertainment, really. Just we do all the hard work for you.
Yeah, nice. Just a quicker way to find what you need to find in a simpler way. More digestible information.
That's exactly right, man. And there's a couple out, just myself and Paul does a great job at Freight Caviar. No shade there. They help pioneer the space of newsletters for logistics. So, kudos to them too, man. Great way to go about it.
For anybody that loves newsletters, hit up ThinkFreight. But moving into my favorite part of the show, recently favorite part of the show, craziest logistics stories, man. I mean, you have to have at least 2 of them, I'm sure, at this point. Like,
I've got a couple, man. I have the one that I think is really just kind of fascinating. I had a driver, so I moved a lot of produce, and this is a blueberry story. We were running a load.
Blueberry story.
It's a blueberry story, man.
We have one famous load in a carrier I used to work at, and it was called the potato load, and that was like the worst load we've ever experienced. So I want to hear the blueberry story.
This one isn't probably like the worst or the craziest, but it's just like fascinating, like what some people think. So like, we had a load of blueberries picking up in McAllen. It was an evening pick, like super late, cross the border late. USDA had to inspect it, blah, 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 blah. Drivers didn't pick it. Was a team load. So it was going from McAllen to Bolingbrook, Illinois, going up to Fresh Time, DC up there. And so the drivers pick it up, no issues, reefer's running the way it should be. They send me the BOLs. Everything looks good. I sent it to the customer. Hey, they're rolling. They'll be at Fresh Time in the morning. Blah, blah, blah. I wake up. It's like 4:00 in the morning the next day, and I check their tracking, and they're in Bolingbrook, or they're pretty close to Bolingbrook. They're like 40 miles out. So I'm assuming that they're probably at like their yard or something. Drivers are switching. Local drivers probably grab it. They were not a big company, maybe like 10-ish drivers, 8 drivers, something like that. And
big enough to maybe have some type of a lot or some local driver, like big enough that's a possibility.
Exactly right. I didn't really think much of it. Like, we had a couple of smaller carriers like that, like 10 or 12 trucks that had those kind of operations, where the small yard, couple 1 or 2 local guys, because they moved a lot of like intermodal stuff. So it was kind of it was helpful. So long story super short, like shorter. I checked back, deliveries at like 7:00 in the morning. I checked back at like 6:30. Truck is on site. My customer calls me I'm not even kidding, 30 seconds later after I check this load.
Yeah,
And
I want to. Okay, so like now I want to know what's gonna happen next because I thought the truck was just never gonna make it to this place, but it made it on time for the delivery. So what
he
goes?
he's on site. He's like on time, way early, or 30, 40 minutes early for delivery. My customer calls me. Like, I had just checked the tracking. He's on site. So I'm like, oh, perfect. I'm going to tell him everything is smooth. The truck is there. I answer the phone. What the is your driver doing at Fresh Time? I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? He's delivering. Of course he'd be there. He said, no, Tommy, your driver is sitting. He's not even at a door yet. He's in the parking lot. He cut the seal and he's got the doors wide open to the trailer. We have no idea how long he's been sitting like that. What the fuck is going on? Get me an answer. So I'm like, oh my God. So I call the guy. He doesn't answer. My phone is going straight to voicemail. Dispatcher's phone is going straight to voicemail. So I start like calling the office number. It's just ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing. Can't get anyone. Well, the shipping manager at Fresh Time goes out to the truck, and he's like, he basically he calls me and hands the driver his phone, and the driver, like, I mean, he doesn't speak a lot of English, and he's just like, I'm here for delivery. And I'm like, yeah.
Doors are open, ready to go.
And so like they pull like the security footage because they're like, they have no idea how long this guy's been sitting here. So yeah, so long story short, the tracking like was incorrect. So long story short, the driver had been there for like an hour with his doors wide open. The product was, so he had the reefer unit off too. Like it wasn't on and the doors were open. The reefer was off, doors were open. He's sitting in the
I would assume the guy that doesn't know not to cut the seal will also not leave the reefer unit running correctly. I mean, those kind of go like that doesn't surprise me at that point.
Hand in hand, yeah, for sure. But like I just figured I'd let people know. So he,
yeah, I mean that's like honestly just one of those stories where like that's just like an average Thursday for like some like,
dude,
and that's the worst type of stuff because like as soon as the seal gets cut, like that's it, bro. Like you're toast.
That's
like,
it.
The whole
like
that's the worst thing you could ever hear in your entire life when you come to work is like driver cut the seals. Like oh my god,
and this is
know
like
what's coming next, bro.
And this is like a Friday or a Saturday, so like it's even worse because like we can't get a reefer download until Monday.
Do anything.
We can't do it. USDA can't come inspect. It's gonna have to sit inside of Fresh Time's warehouse. So like then Fresh Time was like, hey, we're not gonna unload this product. And the customer was like, no, you're taking the product and we're gonna have the USDA come in on Monday. And they were basically like, no, we're not taking it. It can sit on the truck until Monday. And the dispatcher finally calls me and like he's like, no, the shit's not sitting on my truck. Get it off my truck. And I said, hey, your driver caused this problem, dude. I understand you're upset.
Where does the dispatcher have a say in this? Like it's his driver's fault. All of this happened. Like, bro, you should just be lucky that you're not going to eat a full claim. Well, you still might eat a full claim, bro. Like, who are you demanding anything to in that situation?
Well, and it gets more like crazy. He's continuously calling me like, hey, get this shit off my truck. And I said, dude, your driver caused this. You guys caused this problem. He's like, I will tell my driver to push the load into the parking lot. He said, I will start getting this shit off of my truck. And I said, no, you won't. I said, because number one, you're already going to be probably liable for a full claim. I said, they know who you are. They have your pictures. They will literally just call the police and it'll be a bigger issue than it is.
Off of any truck ever, bro.
Right.
Like, and that's a situation. So.
Right.
I like those dispatchers where like they have no like sense of like what they're allowed to do. Like bro, obviously you're not gonna do that. Like we both know that. And like if you are, just do it, bro. You'll expedite the process.
Do it. Right.
Yeah.
I dare you. Do it, bro. Come on.
Yeah, please do it because then we can all be done with this situation. You guys could just be arrested and pay the full claim, and then we could just move on. Like if anything,
we'll just move on.
The best thing you could do is push it out of your truck.
Right. You're gonna solve the customer's problem, the shipper's problem. Please pull it up. Just have your driver start kicking the problem. My problem. We'll just claim the whole load and be done. We'll call the police.
Yeah. I mean, decent story, man. Like, honestly, the kicker to me in that story is the dispatcher saying, "Get it off my truck." It's like
that was like the most crazy thing to me too. I'm like, dude, I'm fine to work with you. I understand it's like irritating for you too. Like, but like, I didn't cause this problem. The shipper is here. The receiver's here. they're ready to unload the truck. Your guy opened the doors
Yeah, you
himself.
decided
Like,
to cut a seal
cut the
on food
seal.
roll, bro.
Right.
I mean, it's not like a load of t-shirts. Like, this is like food. Like that's like the most
Exactly.
serious chemicals in. But I mean, getting
It's
into
wild.
some personal stuff, man. I mean,
Yeah.
what? I'm curious. I want to start asking this one, like framing it a lot better. So, like, what's the best movie you've watched like recently, and then your favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, man, that's a good question. So can I take a different route and go TV show? I'm not a movie person. I'm more
Yeah,
of a
yeah,
TV
yeah.
show
I
person.
mean, okay, like, okay. See, so maybe we'll just start framing it, like your favorite piece of media, bro. I mean, best
So,
TV show you've watched recently.
that's what I've watched recently. Man, I'm a pretty weird TV show watcher. I want to watch like trash TV or like Netflix shows that are just like
Yeah, like
real
shows that are
estate.
really easy to process. Yeah,
Yeah, like a real estate show, like just like high drama, but like I get like what I want, like high quality like views. Like so, I can watch a lot of like what is it called, like Orange County Real Estate or some shit on Netflix. I don't even know the names of these shows.
yeah.
Like,
Have you seen the one on Netflix? I do the same thing periodically. There's one called like Deep Sea or Life Below Sea where they're like on the yacht
oh,
and like it's
I've
like
seen that. Yep,
yeah, yeah, that's like my guilty pleasure TV show. When I'm like don't want to watch anything serious, I'll just toss that on. It's a bunch of like rich people and the crew members are like yapping about what the rich people are doing. Like I call it like it's my
exactly.
TV to watch. So.
It's just I call it
Um,
trash TV because it's just like that's that low like effort. Like there's so much drama, but like it's not my drama, so like I really kind of
and
like
like
it.
the drama that's happening is like very, very like solvable issues. It's
Right,
like
it's
this
easy
drama
as
is
shit
me
to
to me,
solve.
bro.
It's like if this was a
Like when you
logistics
come
issue, this would be
through,
like a one.
yeah, like when you come out of working our like line of work and like you have these like seal issues, then you go watch this is like Becky looked at me the wrong way at lunch on Thursday. I'm like, oh, this is sick, bro. This is like just just say sorry. I don't know, just don't look at her. Like I don't know. Like it's like one of those really easy things to solve. So
No,
I
exactly,
agree with
dude.
you there. I mean, moving into
Yeah,
like music. Okay, before I let you off the hook, what's your favorite movie of all time? Like, you have to have watched some movie. Like,
I've definitely watched some movies. Man, my favorite movie of all time. Probably I don't know if you're like a football movie watcher, but it's a movie called Rudy. It's like a super inspiring, I don't know,
yeah,
football Notre
yeah,
Dame
I've seen.
movie, and then Miracle on Ice are probably my two favorites. Just super
Okay, Miracle
inspiring.
on Ice. I don't think I've ever even heard of, but Rudy, obviously, I've seen. I mean, I used to play football like every. It's like
Yeah.
if you've ever touched the football, like you have to watch that movie. So,
Yeah, so it was a
um,
movie. It was a movie about like the U.S. men's national hockey team beating, was it like Russia or whatever back in like the '80s?
I
Uh,
might have heard of that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
might have
good movie.
actually
And then
watched it probably a long time ago.
honestly, dude, you probably have. It's a pretty it's like a classic movie, but yeah, it's pretty decent. And then I'll answer my favorite TV show too. Probably House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon. Okay, I gotta check that out. I've never heard of that one either. So
So it's like a Game of Thrones spinoff.
okay, so yeah. I mean, I try. Okay, so I like fantasy, but I watched like 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, and I was like, I don't like it when only some people have magic, bro. Like if there's magic, like everyone should have it, or no
Everyone
one
has
should
to have
have
the magic, right?
it. Yeah, like I don't like it when it's just like some dude is like, I'm better than everybody. Like I'm like, I don't know about
So
that.
like, so you said you like fantasy stuff. What's your favorite like fantasy movie
I mean, like
show? And
just for frame of reference, I played World of Warcraft for like 14
okay,
years.
cool,
Like, so
no, it
I
makes
mean, more
sense.
like
That
the
makes total
gaming
sense
side
then.
of fantasy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's cool.
I was always like a magician. I always played a mage, bro, because I was like I just like set fireballs at people. So,
Oh, that
but
was
getting
always
into
the best,
music,
dude.
man. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you listen to? What's in your playlist these days?
Oh, dude, I'm a big like gangster rap, trap kind of guy. I love
Okay,
it.
didn't see that coming at all. To be honest.
No one ever does, dude. Like my
Yeah,
playlist is like Metro Boomin, the Baby, Moneybag Yo,
yeah, like we
Gunna,
listen to all the
ASAP
same stuff.
Ferg. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you just listen to the same stuff I listen to, which like I completely did not expect that one at all, to be honest. You got me on
What were
that.
you thinking? What were you thinking I was gonna listen to? Like
Ah,
heavy
bro, you
metal?
know what I was thinking, bro. Like, I was thinking like, yeah, like rock, country, like just some long hair activities.
Dude, I'll say this. I do listen to like some rock and some like older like like My Chemical
Oh, I mean,
Romance,
I
stuff like
listen
that,
to
like older
old
shit.
stuff too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm going to like the
I mean,
MCL, like they're touring, so like I got tickets, like I'm fucking going.
yeah, like if it's good, it's good. Like I have some Escape the Fate in my Spotify. It pops up
Exactly.
every again. Like I have like the big playlist where I'll hit play, like a whole bunch of random stuff starts happening.
Yep. Yeah, you'll get the random like
Overall,
older pop stuff. It's good, or like what, just the classics. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, most of the time I'm banging some trap.
yeah. And going into sports, I mean, you playing any sports, watching any sports? What's your sports situation?
Yeah, I mostly watch sports nowadays. I have gotten back into running over the last month or so. But yeah, so basketball's big. I watch a ton of basketball, and then football is probably my second. Big Notre Dame fan, so it really sucked that we just lost the national championship. Bulls fan, Bears fan, Cubs fan, Blackhawks fan. So my fandom is pretty miserable.
You watched The Bear, like the TV show The Bear, like the cooking one?
No.
Oh man, you gotta watch that. It's
Is it
all
good?
Chicago. Yeah, man. The actors from Shameless. Shameless used to be one of my
I
favorite
did.
TV shows.
I did see Shameless, and I like that a lot. So I do know he's in that, so I think that would be pretty solid. I just didn't know like
Yeah,
what it was
Shameless is like
related
one of
about.
my all-time favorite TV shows ever. But The Bear, I mean, it's good, man. If you like, you're from Chicago, you like Chicago, you'll like it way more than I did because all the Chicago things were just like lost on me. I was like, I don't really care
Right.
about these things. Like, but the show itself is good. I love food. It's a great show.
Sweet.
Moving into the second last question of today's show, as we almost are ready to get out of here. How often do you think of the Roman Empire?
Oh man, nowadays probably at least once a day, twice a day.
Yeah, why? Like in what context?
Just so many different contexts, man. I mean, honestly, just like the way the world is evolving, but also just like I think about it, just in the way logistics works too. So like, honestly, I think about it a lot more than probably people like
Yeah,
would
you
would,
guys
would
getting
expect.
philosophical on me
Yeah.
with this one, bro. I'll let you slide on that one. Like, you think about it a little too often. Yeah, the reasons you can keep to yourself. And then as we finish the show, we move into the final question, and it's chicken wing choices. When you eat chicken, okay, first of all, do you even like chicken wings? Like, you look
No,
like
I
a
don't
guy
eat.
that loves chicken.
No, I actually don't eat chicken at all. I'm actually vegetarian. I can't eat meat. I
Oh,
actually get
you're a
sick as fuck.
vegetarian.
Yeah, I get sick as hell from eating meat now. So like about 6 years ago, 5 years ago, just had some gut issues, and yeah, my gut biome has changed completely, and I cannot eat meat. I can eat some seafood, but yeah, I don't eat meat. But I do eat like wings, like cauliflower wings and shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
these,
yeah. Okay, so I used to be a vegan too, like when I was in high
oh,
school, like for
sick.
like 2, 3 years.
Nice.
Like I've been through it too. It just like didn't work out for me. But like
Yeah.
you're one of the first people that doesn't eat meat that I've come across that like I like you don't ever say it. You're not like pushing it to anybody. You're like, oh, just keep that
No.
shit to myself. Like,
Yeah, I don't care what other people do. Like I still like meat. Like if my heart and my girlfriend eats meat, like I have no problem with like I'll cook meat for her. Like I don't care. But like I just if I could eat meat, I would probably still be eating it. But I just don't can't.
yeah, I mean you didn't really have a choice in this matter. So there's not
Right,
much to
exactly.
talk about, bro.
But so,
Okay,
okay,
I mean,
but I
I
still
don't
eat.
know, man. Like getting into chicken wings, or I guess cauliflower wings, or whatever wing alternatives you may or may not consume, if you had the choice. Well, okay, that question doesn't make sense now because the shapes. I don't even know the shapes, dude. Let's skip the first one. Are you going ranch or blue cheese on a dipping sauce, bro? For whatever
I'm going
wings
blue.
you're eating.
I'm going blue cheese all day.
Okay, so you can still eat cheese though. You just have a
Oh yeah,
problem with meat. Like,
just with meat. I don't know what it is. It's just something in meat that like I can have
oh,
cheese. I
like
can
I could
have.
give up meat completely if I could still eat cheese. Cheese is the one thing that like life would not be the same if I was not allowed to eat cheese
That's
ever
how I
again.
feel.
So
That's how I feel too. Like I'm fine. Like there's since I started like this and had to become a vegetarian, there's so many better alternatives out there that like since I started, where it's like I don't even
yeah.
miss like if I miss chicken, like there's alternatives, like a brand called Meaty, there's Beyond, Impossible. There's so many different kinds of like chicken you can have, like chicken
Dude,
you
the
can have.
veggie burgers slap, bro. Like I eat them
Dude, they slap.
sometimes because they're like they taste good.
They're just good. Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
like the bean patties and stuff, man. Like, like so, I was a vegan like 15 years ago, and like that's when like stuff was starting to go mainstream, and like nothing
Yep.
was really that good. And like now, recently, like obviously we have a lot more options, there's a lot more diversity. But cheese, man, like nobody can take cheese away from me that I
No,
would eat. Like
exactly. If
that's where I draw the
I
line.
If my body said no more cheese, I would just continue to eat fucking cheese because I like it that
Yeah,
much.
yeah, I
Like
would
meat,
still
I
eat
just don't miss as much.
it.
But I'm like, cheese, I need.
Yeah, cheese I definitely need, man. You threw me off on all of this, man. I can't even remember the last question. Now I do breaded or non-breaded when it comes to the wings.
Oh, always breaded. Yeah, always
Yeah,
breaded.
bread is the best way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you, man. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for finally sitting down with me. Obviously, we bumped into each other throughout the communities, but never actually got to talk. And I hope we can
Oh
just
yeah,
kind of
dude.
touch finally.
Dude, I'm glad to be here. Glad you invited me on. Glad Sean helped us kind of get this going too. And yeah, dude, always happy to come on. You're always welcome to come on the show as well, and sit on the other side of this and have some fun too.
Yeah, I would love to, man. Because I don't get to do that very often, and anytime in February should be fine, man. We'll hit it up.
Yeah, we'll coordinate it offline and we'll make it happen, dude.
Beautiful. Hey, have a good rest of your night, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, dude. Talk to you later.
It's going to wrap up podcast episode 64 with Thomas Werdine of ThinkFreight. If you're ever in the need of a nice newsletter in the freight industry, hit them up. And that's going to be it for me for today. Have a good night, everybody.